Life is hard. It comes at you fast, doesn't it? So is being an entrepreneur. You see people with the cars, the boats, the homes, and the travel. What you don't see is how many times they've failed, how hard they work, and how often they bust their butts. This is the Get Real Podcast. Get Real Podcast. We have a lot going on. We talk about life, mental health, business, ups and downs. And we have on some of the most exclusive entrepreneurs in the business world. People that have done it. No BS, no pump you up mentality. Just keeping it real and raw. Let's do this. This is Get Real. And this is your host, Mark Lyford.
Welcome. I'm pleased to say that we have Neil Stafford on the Get Real podcast today. I've known Neil now for probably 12 years or so.
Oh, at least. Yeah, at least.
Yeah. I met you at an event in Heathrow, I think it was the first time.
Yeah.
So Neil is, I call him Mr. Membership. And he's going to talk about that, plus everything else that we're going to try and cover in the hour or so. So welcome, Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Mark, thank you for having me on as well.
That's great. It's a pleasure. So just tell everybody that's listening or watching a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it, mate.
Yeah, certainly. So Neil Stafford, I live in the northwest part of England. I've been selling online since 1998. My first sale was for an oil painting. I'm not an artist, my friend was. We can cover that if you want to talk about it later on. Previous to that, probably like everybody who's listening to this, a bit of an entrepreneurial trait in them, was always looking for something. And I always remember when I was about 15, 16, my uncle said to me, he said, always have a plan B, because I was going down the get me exams, go into corporate life, which I did. But I always had a plan B. Plan B ranged from DJing, which did that for many years, and then selling oil paintings with a friend, which led us to the online world. But I did subscription newsletters in the mid-1990s, printed newsletters sent out in the post, people paid a subscription for. If you can hear some tippy-tapping, it's my dog wandering around. There's a story there as well. And then the internet came along. We made our first sale in 1998, and then first membership site launch was around about 2003. How about that?
Wow, 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So, like I say, you're Mr. Membership to me. I mean, when we met, you were talking about membership sites. When we first met, it was a small event that you were relatively small, you were speaking at, and I was there as well in the audience at the time.
Yeah.
And you, that's one of your main focuses. And I think it's true to say, so for anybody listening this, there's a few types of people that are listening to this, okay? There's people that are looking to start a business, people already in business that are looking to grow theirs. And I think it's true to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's not a single business that you've come across that you cannot find a way of applying a membership model to recurring model of some kind. Is that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And especially over the last few years as well, where we've seen like the Dollar Shave Club come to the fore. Who would have thought you could sell They don't have just a subscription program. If you really look at it, they've created a movement and have a membership behind it. Who would have thought, you can have razor blades as a membership. So yeah, and I always joke about the gentleman who is in the funeral business, and he has a particular type of membership or subscription, and it's actually targeted before people pass away, and believe it or not, after they pass away, because the estate pays it. And it's sad on one hand, but his market is people who don't want to die alone and be forgotten. The people who've got no family, for whatever reason, and they can pay a subscription, and it's one of these greenfield sites, so the grave will get tended, flowers will get left, and they will be remembered way past their passing. There's another guy in the States who got a membership subscription for a funeral service as well, but that's mainly pre-passing away. You know what I mean? This is post-passing away. So yeah, if there's a market, I would strongly recommend people have a look at their marketing and say, okay, then how can we put in a subscription, a recurring revenue, a membership program into this? Because what that recurring revenue does, it flattens out, your cash flow. It stops the highs and the lows. And I always say the great thing to think about is imagine waking up on the first day of every single month, knowing exactly how much money coming into your business, plus or minus a few percent, obviously, before you make another sale. Now, obviously, that money comes in throughout the month when people sign up. But if you wake up on the first of each month, you've got a damn good idea what your cash flow is looking like that month without thinking, right, get on the treadmill, let's start making some sales.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about the funeral guy. That's a new one to me that you've not told me about. That demonstrates what we just said. There's not a single business out there that you can't find a way of applying recurring to.
Yeah.
And I know what it feels like to experience what you've just said. Imagine waking up on the first of every month. The great thing about it is that once it's up and running, at least all of your bills are covered. And let's get real here, having your bills covered to where whatever other stuff you're doing, whatever other products or services you're selling as part of your business, that's gravy. That's profit. I'm not saying people should only look to get a membership recurring model just to cover their bills. Of course, sky's the limit.
That's the first goal, isn't it, Mark?
The first goal with any business is if you could say, right, my recurring covers my cost of running, staff, overheads, whatever it may be. That's a great feeling, and that creates more of a relaxed entrepreneur. Because, like you say, you wake up on the first of the morning, the morning of the first, and this month, within, like you say, a few percent, this is what should be coming in. Yeah, I've experienced that many years ago, 20 years ago now, and I built my recurring business up, as you know, and at the height of my you know this already, but I'm telling it for the benefit of people that don't know.
Great story.
That are only just tuning into the Get Real podcast. So at the height, I started with 4 membership sites. Yes, it was in the adult space. They were all adult sites, but at the time that was kind of really the only thing that recurring wise made any money.
Yeah.
And I built up to where I'd got 14,500 people paying. My cut of it was $11 a month. So I was doing $5,000 a day average. And I could tell from my stats that, going into the 15th of the month, okay, tomorrow we should be getting this in plus or minus a couple of percent. So then all you were really focusing on is building out ways of increasing that particular given month. It was great, really, because the growth of it at the time was amazing, and you didn't really have to worry about churn too much back then. Obviously, some efforts, depending on what you were going into, you have to think about churn, what have you. But there's no better feeling than recurring. I would say, and it's just popped into my head, so I'll say it now. It's kind of out of context now, but one thing I did learn when I started with recurring again back in 2010-11 is personally do not use PayPal for recurring. Now you might have a different opinion. You've been in it a lot longer than I have, but I majorly got my ass kicked by building a recurring again and relying on PayPal. Yeah,
there's a couple of things with PayPal. There is some markets they don't like, but importantly, if you ever wanted to move from PayPal, you can't take them from PayPal and put them into another billing system. That's the important thing to remember. You would have to ask them to resubscribe. And with the best will in the world, and we know that everybody loves you in your membership site, you're going to have a low percentage who will take you up on rebilling, because that's the point. That's the point of disconnect where they go, you know what, I'll stop that now. I've not used it for a while, or maybe I'll just give it a rest, because they're in and billing, they're happy. But when you say, listen, you've got to move across, we're going to a new platform, you're going to have to re-sign up, there is ways of doing it, and we've done it, but it's hard work, and you won't get everybody. In fact, I would say in most cases, not everybody, in most cases, you're going to have a lower percentage move across. Now, the markets they don't like, and this is what I don't like about PayPal, they can just be so indiscriminate and say, right, we're stopping it. Not only do they stop it, they keep holding your money for a while, as you found out. In extreme cases, people haven't had their money back from PayPal. You know, they're a business. You know, you play in the sandpit, you've got to play by their rules. But again, with you, Mark, I would say be careful, understand the risks of using a third-party processor similar to PayPal. Every processor has its risks. Say for the adult industry, there are niche and speciality merchant providers and processors that you can go to who understand the risk, who manage the risk. You'll get charged more, obviously. But for most people, most membership sites, you know, we use Stripe, we use a bank merchant account. We've got PayPal on one, but it's such a niche hobby site. There's no danger to it there. Who else have we got? We used to use ClickBank, don't anymore on one of our sites. I'm looking over there because I'm looking at the list of sites that we've got. Predominantly Stripe and bank merchant.
I mean, my experience with PayPal, I did get the money, but one of the occasions it was a 3-month wait, one was a 6-month wait. It's a hell of a chunk of money. So that's a warning there. But with regards to how you actually deal with that, and we're kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but I want to cover it in that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of setting up a new. We had a conversation last week before this, and I'm setting up a new recurring membership. And how do you deal with being able to port those over? Is there any one resource or app or site that you would say people should look at from a point of view of, okay, I've got Stripe, I've got my merchant account. I know there's apps or sites out there like Recurly and various other places. How do you structure it? Do you channel, because you've got multiple membership sites, do you channel, right, this site's going to Stripe, this site's going to the merchant account, or do you use something in between to be able to mix them into?
No, so each membership site has its own merchant account. So as it's its own business. So if anything did happen, it's separate. We use, believe it or not, I use Thrivecart an awful lot. Such an easy way to integrate it, such an easy way to set up, upsell, downsell process built in there as well. So my basic setup is Stripe and Thrivecart, or merchant account built-in processor in the membership software that we've got. Okay. Recurly, great company to deal with. I had the pleasure of being on a round table with them on a virtual session within the pandemic back in 2020, 2021. Great company to deal with. They know their stuff, but that's sort of like a bolt on when you grow. It's not something for the beginning. That makes sense. For starting, it's a bit of it's an overhead again. I would say most merchants, most processors, if people went with Stripe, go and check the terms and conditions of what's allowed and what isn't. Most people will fit into that. And I say most people doing business the correct way will be fine with Stripe. If you're in a high risk industry, then Easy Pay Direct, Brad W, I think his surname is.
I can't remember his name.
Easy Pay. He's first met him back in must have been like 2009, 2010 at a mastermind with Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy. And what he doesn't know about merchant accounts, he will be able to guide you through the setup process and what type of merchant account you need, and be able to help you understand the risks if you're in a grey area, shall we say.
Yeah, and another little name drop of a friend of mine who I have known, he was my first ever employee outside of this for a minute, Josh Ewan, who I did a podcast with a few weeks ago. He runs HeliosPayments.com.
Right.
And he's in the high risk sector as well. So another little resource there, predominantly US based, but
same with Easy Pay Direct.
And I have spoke to Easy Pay Direct as well. Fortunately, the area I'm going into is just publishing and not considered high risk.
Yeah.
Although it's things like, again, and when we say high risk, we don't necessarily mean, that's what the industry says it as. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing any, you're looking to
no. Let's give a prime example. The business opportunity markets, where you're selling opportunities, which does inherently have a higher refund rate, may carry a higher chargeback rate. So you may provide superb customer support, you may provide a fantastic product, which you should do, but inherently that market can be skeptical. There are people looking for an easy win in a lot of cases. And we're not talking about the biz ops which don't work. We're talking about how to set up your balloon stall or your jewelry store, as well as online opportunities as well. But inherently, they are deemed higher risk. Another high risk category, believe it or not, is seminars and events. So a standard merchant account probably wouldn't be right long term if you're going into seminar and event organization. And the reason for that is you're selling tickets for a future event that hasn't happened yet. So you can imagine having a 1,000-person event. It's $2,000 or pounds a ticket. You've got that money in. The risk is that person, seminar organizer, could we're off to Mauritius and not hold the seminar. So there is different categories, and when we say higher risk, it's just higher risk of that category, not anything you're doing wrong.
Yeah, and it's like crypto is one. I'm not even to process payments for crypto or buy crypto. Forget that.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine, Chris Coney's a really great crypto publisher, runs publishing membership sites for that. And that's an issue. He's not even trying to sell crypto or anything. But if the crypto has anything to do with it, that's another example as well. So, okay, we covered that. So that's good.
Yeah.
So somebody listening to this that wants to figure out a recurring model, we should probably go with an example. Let's think of Mr. or Mrs. Joe, entrepreneur, business owner. You must have one as an
example. We can give it quite a few different ones.
So what I'm trying to get to is, how do people start? What's the process of starting? If somebody's listening to this now, they either have a business or they want to set one up with a recurring element. What's the process? What would you start with as a process to figure it out?
So there's many different models. So in the info publishing world, it's the lines are getting blurred a little bit between courses and membership sites. So, for example, the subscription newsletters I published back in the 1990s, one was called Free Ride UK, which is all about mountain biking. Used to do an awful lot of mountain biking. It was just about mountain biking in the UK. And the other one was the Caribbean Adventure Journal, which my wife and, my girlfriend and now wife back in the day, we used to travel to the Caribbean an awful lot, and we used to take photographs, videos, and the unbeaten path type of thing. And then we used to publish the newsletter back in the UK about traveling the Caribbean. Now, that was, I would call, an aspirational sell. So with a market, you're always going to have those people who are hyper users and doers, those people who will get involved and do it, those people who will dabble, those people who are looking to get into it, and those people who are dreaming about it. So I would say the people who subscribe to the Caribbean Adventure Journal, not every one of them went to the Caribbean. They were living through that newsletter, and that carries right through to today. So our first membership site was Junior Soccer Coach. That came about, a business partner of mine, he was a soccer coach. I played semi-pro as a kid. He ran a local team in North Wales here in the UK. He was actually my boss at work at one point, and he had two printed sheets on his desk at work. And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, it's like a he called it a fact sheet, facts and figures." He goes, "It's a fact sheet I do for our club, who's won, who's not. And then on the back, I do a little bit of a training session to help other coaches." All right. I said, "Can I take a copy?" So I took a copy and I did some research, and I found, now this is back in 2000, 2001. And I found that back then, the only help online was really like the FA, the FA site and some of the international sporting governing body sites. There was nothing really at grassroots. And there was people searching online, how do I coach kids football, soccer, obviously worldwide. So I came back and said, listen, there's people online who would be interested to hear about how you run your team. He's like, get out of here. No, they won't. Said they will. So tell you what, let me interview you. Let me interview you about how you coach and run your junior football team, soccer team. So he came up to our old house and we sat down, and because it was 2001, Mark, we had a tape-to-tape machine. Wow. And I was an old DJ, so I had 2 microphones. I pointed one at me, one at him. We sat down on the table, I pressed record, and we wrote out a lot of questions that we were going to cover. Now, if we made a mistake, we had to go like that and rewind the tape. Can you imagine doing that today? It just wouldn't happen, would it?
Wow.
So we recorded, and he said to me, I think this will last 15, 20 minutes. Over 2 evenings, we filled 3 C60 cassettes, nearly 3 hours. So it was 2 hours of the interview and a bonus about 45 minutes. And we started selling that as a cassette program. That told us there was a market. Now, back then, the next step would have been doing some video stuff, but we didn't know how to do that at the time. And because of my newsletter subscriptions, I thought, I wonder if we could do something around that. Now, we'd met a gentleman online called Bill Myers. Bill was the person who I learnt newsletters off, and he'd started talking about membership sites. We started looking at membership sites. And what can we do on a membership site with junior soccer? So you're saying, like, what should they do and have a look at it? This is an example of people in a market who, in most cases, are predominantly back then was dads. Obviously, a lot of mums now, mums and dads, parents whose kids play soccer and they get volunteered to help coach the local team. So where do you go? You go online. So we thought, right, what do people need? They needed training sessions. They needed help picking teams. But more importantly, they needed to understand if the team did well, why did they do well? And if the team did bad, why did they do bad? And how can they fix it? So we were providing information of a need, people needing to improve their team. Now, this is a hobby market. There's no payoff, no financial payoff at all for the parents. The end result is the kids improving. Now, the parents get joy and satisfaction. So they're not losing weight, they're not finding love, they're not making money, they're not saving money. In many cases, they're spending their own money on the team and to join our soccer coaching site. So that was... Is there a need in the market with ongoing information that we can help people improve? Then that's where Junior Soccer Coach came from. And it came from a place of, hey, listen, we're not professionals. We are just like you. My business partner at the time, he'd been coaching about 8 or 9 months, got his level 1 badge that you need. And he said, listen, I'll just share what works for us. And I said, well, I used to play semi-pro, so I can help with the goalkeeping side. Obviously, behind the scenes, I was doing the marketing. And that's where it grew from. It's like, listen, we're just like you, come along for the ride. So back in 2003, when we launched the site, we were amateur, we were new in the market, but over the years, it grew to be known as, the place to go for help coaching and running a junior soccer team.
Wow. And you still have that now?
No, we actually sold that at the back end of 2021. Now, this is really interesting. So you know the story a little bit, Mark, but to recap, ran that for many years. 2012, 2013, I bought out my business partner, which enabled me to restructure the business and help.
Actually,
yeah, you remember that? Yeah, that was an interesting time, wasn't it? So, but my niece, now this is where my niece plays ladies football. So we sat down, and because we've got at that point nearly 8 years of, 2003, 9 years of content, we sat down and said, right, what's evergreen? And we turned the site into evergreen. So when people joined, there was an amount of content, and then it was drip fed over time.
Just explain, just for people that don't know, again, what's evergreen mean?
Evergreen means doesn't go out of date. So say, for example, we did a video or an article talking about the World Cup in 2008, I think, wherever it was, then that's not evergreen, that dates. Or we're talking about something that happened there and then in the world.
Information that's perpetually can be used no matter when somebody joins. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we turned that into an evergreen site. So when everybody joined, there was content and it was drip fed. And then spring, summer 2021, somebody got in contact with us. We're interested in buying it. Now, from discussions, they were interested in the content, the database, obviously the members, the prospect base, and the products that we had. That's what they were interested in, because they're in a sports market. If we do another podcast in 12 months, Mark, I can tell you who it was, etc., but I can't at the moment. Guess what they weren't interested in? The name.
They had their own branding, or
they had their own branding. And the way they were going to do it was they were going to say, welcome to Junior Soccer Coach members who now get access not only to Junior Soccer Coach content, but all this as well that they have. And they didn't even want the domain name. Well, the domain name never came up, so I kept stum. Now, I can't go back into that market for 2 years, which I've got no plans to anyway. And in about 12 months, I can reveal more about it. We'll make a date, Mark, and we'll talk about how it happened.
A couple of things there then. Drip feeding the content is a great way of keeping new members engaged. What platform or what software do you use to run your membership sites?
So back in the day when we were first looking, there was mainly two options. One was MemberGate, which was $4,500,
Wow.
and the other one was a piece of software. So this is back in early 2000s. We went with MemberGate because, although it was an investment back then, I didn't have programming skills. I didn't want to learn how to build this site and all the programming that went with it. When MemberGate was plug and play, what you see is what you get. It was ahead of its time. Today, we use, keep it simple, WordPress, Wishlist Member, and LearnDash predominantly. Now, we also have a site which we've had for a long, long time, which simply sends out an email that says your new lesson is ready. Click here to download. Goes to a download page. That's a very simple subscription site.
Well, you mentioned Wishlist, which is what I'm building my new thing on. LearnDash will be something over time I do. Mine's not necessarily a course thing. It's new content every month that people will be able to use themselves. It's PLR, but that won't go down the PLR rabbit hole for today. Wishlist, I think it's new. If you go and sign up, it's like $299 a year. But
I'm not too sure how much it is these days.
Yeah, I mean, you and me are on old.
Yeah,
so I'm lucky to have an old rate because I was the first, like you were. Wishlist works WordPress. It's it is simple to use. In fact, I only just upgraded my support because I hadn't used it for a while, and their new Wishlist, new to me anyway, is amazingly easy to set you up, and that allows you to protect certain content, whatever. It's $299 a year, and it's really good stuff. And then LearnDash, I don't know how much LearnDash is, to be honest, can't remember, but if you're doing course-based stuff, LearnDash with the course stuff. And that, I think that's the most simplest way of getting going. You need a WordPress site, you need a Wishlist plugin, and you're off and ready. And it integrates with various many payment processes. In fact, what I'm doing with mine, sideways a minute, I'm actually using Woocommerce. Woocommerce now have an inbuilt payment, Woocommerce Payments, which is powered by Stripe, which makes it easy for people to get up and running. But the other great thing for me with Woocommerce is it allows me to plug into any of their payment gateways. And because, as you know, I'm heavily into crypto, there's various plugins to WooCommerce that allow you to accept crypto. So I'm using the coinpayments.net plugin, and people will be able to pay for my membership in crypto as well. So there's many options there. It's relatively easy these days to get set up, relatively inexpensive as well to get going. And
especially today, Mark, as you know, there's so many different platforms that you can use, to start a membership. I still think WordPress Wishlist or WordPress and any like MemberPress, any plugin for WordPress is probably the quicker way to get going. The all-in-one platforms such as Kajabi, Access Alley, Thinkific, they've got the pros and the cons. There's pros and the cons.
I know I've got Groove.
Yes.
The Groove, and they've got a great Groove member. But again, to get going, I think still, like you said, WordPress wishlist is the thing. Actually, I've been speaking to one of the co-owners of Wishlist, and I'm looking to get them on the podcast as well, because I really want to push out the power of memberships. And I think it's such a powerful thing. Like we started, knowing you've got money coming in every month, there is no better feeling. You're not waking up in hustle mode, as I call it. Right, how am I getting sales in? How am I selling whatever I'm selling? This yes, obviously you've still got to continue to promote the membership, but there's no better feeling of waking up that first of the month thinking, in theory I'm covered. It is.
And just to reiterate your branding, to keeping it real, I'm just going to shut that door. Now my wife's home looking after the dogs. But there is a story around that as well, Mark, as we were chatting beforehand, which is my wife looks after dogs and boarding, so she does simply spaniels. She's keeping it just spaniels in a niche, which allows her to charge more. But she's also got a dog treats business, which she sells online. She uses Woocommerce. And we've looked at putting the membership in that. They've got subscription, obviously, when treats go out automatically, but she's creating a VIP club that we're working on right now. We haven't launched it yet, so I can't say how well it's gone, but that will be a little bit more on monthly on a membership, which will be VIP. She'll be doing videos, updates, looking after spaniels, etc. So watch this space on that one.
That's great, mate. One of the things with the WooCommerce I mentioned as well, if you want to do recurring payments through WooCommerce, you actually need their subscription plugin, which is $199 a year. That's another cost if you wanted to use WooCommerce. You don't need to. I'm only looking to use it because of the crypto element.
Crypto side, yeah.
But you could just simply go and integrate with Stripe to your Wishlist WordPress site. Off you go, Bob's your uncle. So Wishlist will directly integrate with Stripe without having to pay any extra costs up front. That's fascinating. So the challenge, I still want to find the challenge, which I don't think I'll do, of coming up or finding a business where Neil cannot apply a membership. And like you said, times have changed so much. It isn't just about the product anymore. It's about community, a following, cult-like. Really, I watched the documentary on Netflix with Gabby a while ago about Brewdog. They created a cult in a good way, a mass following of advocates and fans, and they also incorporated a membership to it. And that's ultimately, and as things have moved on, it's a lot easier to do that. You were talking about recording with 2 tapes and stuff. The world's moved on. That is all you really need. If you're doing video stuff or even audio, the voice recorder on this is good enough to start, depending on what kind of content you want to produce. Things are so much easier. Although I think life for young adults in some ways is harder now, from an opportunity point of view. The likes of our kids, can't really call mine kids now as such, 18, 22, but the opportunities they've got compared to even when we were starting out. I started out online 96, 97. You were similar times. Like you just said, with the membership site system to get up and running, $4 or $5 grand. Now, the barrier of entry to get things going is so much easier and get out there and promote yourself. So that's great on memberships, mate. I think
just to one more point there, Mark. You touched on it about membership and community. That's a big thing. So today, I would use the word connection. Community is one form of connection. So it's those sites, subscription programs, membership sites. It's those sites you have the greatest connection with their members are the ones that will ride out any storm. So at the time we're recording this, the world's going through some funky stuff. People will be looking at what they're spending money on it, and it's the sites that have the connection. Now, the connection can be a community connection. There are a few subscription programs that I know which the owner has a great connection to the members or subscribers just via email, which is more of a one-way communication. You may ask for feedback, but it's not like a group or a forum or even meeting in person. So I would say connection is the secret, and the connection is the connection your members or subscribers feel they have with you, real or imagined. In some cases, it can be real, some cases it can be imagined, because what we want is for people to say, I don't want that out of my life. I need that in my life. Because of, and when we teach and when we help people in our membership site, that's what fulfills a lot of people, and you get great pleasure in helping people develop and get the skill that we promise them. But that's only just a small part of a membership site. It's the connection side. And I spend a lot of time with our clients and in our membership sites talking about strategic connection content. What makes them think? What makes them feel? Can you challenge them? What do they know about you? And as the owner of the membership site, you control how much you reveal about yourself. But the more you do reveal about yourself in your life, the more connection your members will feel they have with you. So it's a balancing act, especially some people are introverted. I remember working with a lady who has like an embroidery site, and she was very introverted, and she lived at that time in a beautiful part of the UK in Devon, and like a chocolate box house, beautiful country garden. And her main market was middle America, stay-at-home mums, 45 plus. And we were looking at retention. She had pretty good retention. I said, listen, you need just to reveal a little bit more about yourself and where you live. And she started doing photographs of her embroidery stuff in the country kitchen with the Aga, and those type of pictures got the most feedback. People were saying, weren't talking about the embroidery things she was doing. It was like, oh, love your picture, love your art, they love the kitchen. Then she did stuff in the garden, and we got her doing a little bit of filming. So I dragged her kicking and screaming to reveal a little bit more. And she had 2 big Newfoundland dogs, and they were fantastic. And they started to appear in her membership and in her subscription. And this is the connection side. You are a real person who they know, like, and trust.
And it's also a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
I think people want to feel they belong to a area of... Yeah.
People who get them.
Yeah.
They get me. All my oddities, all my quirks, all my fears and frustrations and my dreams, they get me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I always say if somebody wants to leave your membership site, your cancellation process should be simple. Should be simple to do. The decision to leave your site should be a gut-wrenching decision, an emotional roller coaster as they hover over that cancel button going, I don't really want to leave. I like it here. They get, that's the 2 sides of it. They should make it easy to cancel. That's okay. But it should be a gut-wrenching decision to leave you.
Great, mate. One quick question that's popped into my head while we were talking. You talked about, the connection and the community side of things. I have failed miserably in the past at the right platform to use. I'm going through a decision-making process at the moment, personally. At some point, realistically, in 2023, I'm going to be launching a real entrepreneur membership.
Yeah.
I previously have... There's that many. One of the great things about how technology's moved on is it actually gives you too many choices sometimes.
Yeah.
So like within my crypto side of my business, Discord and Telegram are a big thing, but they're not really that big outside of crypto as such, or gaming, which I'm not into, but Discord, the gaming, whatever. And it's like, as you know, I've got a whole other podcast and passion for racing pigeons.
Yeah.
And I tried to put that into Discord because it was easy to use. It didn't get any traction. Most people in that area of my life use Facebook and WhatsApp. But I've never liked the idea of creating a community based on another platform, not necessarily WhatsApp as such, but certainly Facebook. I know of, and even in the pigeon sport, I know of a Facebook group that we've got 50 odd thousand people in it, and it got closed down.
Yeah.
What have you come across where what you would implement to create your own private community? For instance, I have in the past used EP012, which is like a WordPress based community. I've used BodyPress.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this myself next year, like within the Real Entrepreneur network that I want to build going into 2023.
Yeah, great questions, and something I've wrestled with recently, because we recently launched our Recurring Revenue Insider, the membership site for membership site owners. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Facebook is the de facto go-to because it's just simple to set up and simple to use. And it has its pros and cons, but for that reason about setting up a community that could be taken away, and it's a very real thing, probably won't happen to you, but a very real thing that could happen. I've ummed and ahed with a few of the WordPress plugins to create a forum. To keep them within our own ecosystem, we own it. I've looked at Circle as well, circle.io. My only downside, because I really like that, I really like it on the desktop. I've been in a few groups that I belong to. I like the ability that it has. It's paid as well, so you're paying for something that's not free. Facebook's free, therefore you're at the mercy. At least if you're paying for something, you've got some recourse. But the downside is that the mobile side, the apps are not that great, and most people these days are on mobile. So I've been and ahhing. So with Recurring Revenue Insider, we defaulted because we were launching to the Facebook group, but everybody knows we're going to be moving a platform. Now that's not too bad about moving people across because they're already in the membership area, and we've got a Facebook group, but it needs to move before it gets too big.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember which one it is. EP012. I'm going to look at Circle myself. EP012 or BodyPress. I know one of them. I think it's BodyPress. Offer a mobile app. You can have your own mobile app. Either you can do stuff yourself, or they do it for you. So you can actually have your own dedicated app for that particular community. So, yeah, it's something to think about. Like I say, I mean, I run a 13,000 group in the pigeon sport on Facebook, and as long as they have rules about not selling livestock, and occasionally you get members trying to post livestock, and I've clamped down on all posts apart from selected people I know and trust have to be pre-approved. So I'm sticking with that. And it's a passion project.
There's a difference, isn't there, with a paid, your paid group. I know you don't pay for a Facebook group, but you've got your paid membership, which has a Facebook group. That's a different entity and a different way of managing it than a free one. So the free ones are sticking their head above the parapet, more likely to get flagged to Facebook for any, going against community standards. Whereas I think your paid one, because they are paid members, they should respect you, respect each other. It's a bit easier to manage.
I said to you before we started recording, we're doing half an hour, if that's okay, on memberships. And then it's not gone that way, but let's keep on it, because as we keep talking, I have other things pop into my head.
Fire away.
What are your thoughts on, I'll just give you the context of this before you answer it. What are your thoughts on free memberships? And the reason I say it is that marketing friends of mine, Simon Hodgkinson and Jeremy Gislason. Jeremy runs a very successful, hundreds of thousands of people in it, membership site with 3 levels of membership. And the initial level is free. And he also allows other people that are at the higher levels to be able to give away those free memberships with the idea that over time people will upgrade. What's your thoughts on free memberships as a model to get people in to then upgrade to the higher level content?
Okay, so I have run free memberships. That reason didn't like it, so I'm probably not the advocate for free memberships. However, he says, I know who you're talking about. I know the market that they're in, and I think it's a perfect ascension model for what they do. And I always say when people talk about Facebook being free, I come back to Facebook, if you're not paying for a product, you are the product, is the way to look at it. So you've got to have, if you've got a free membership level, you can't be squeamish about having a solid sales process to move them up. So either move them up into a membership or move them into sell something. Same with a free Facebook group. You have a free Facebook group. You need to help and serve that free Facebook group, but you've got to move them from your free Facebook group to your paying products. So there's a strategy behind that. The free Facebook group is to start conversations, show them what they're missing, get them to raise their hands to say, I'm interested in your next thing. So it's a balancing act. And for a free Facebook group, for a free membership level, for me, that's not for me. That's not for me. But for a lot of people, as long as they've got a solid pathway, they know that once they're in here, my sole aim is to get them to the next level or to buy something. Because if it's not, why have you got a free membership?
I guess the thing with your model is that once you've got someone, obviously there's a process in selling a membership. But once they're in the membership, it's a different mindset in that you're not having to sell them anything, really. At most, you're having subconsciously is to give them enough value to where they don't cancel or they don't want to cancel. That's it. And that's a lot simpler deal for you as the owner to be able to provide the value and the content of whatever it is they want and only be focused on that. And then the extra time, rather than focusing on selling to the free people, that's where that connection and
it's a great area. You got your free Facebook groups, you got your free membership. It's the same thing because we want to move them up.
Yeah,
you think about it, we want to move them up into whatever is next. It's just I would like personally. We have a free Facebook group. It's smaller numbers, deliberate. Because we have questions, as most Facebook groups do. We're quite hot on if you haven't filled them in or you haven't answered the right questions, then we move them away. So, for example, for our Facebook group, it's for membership site owners. So if it says, do you have a membership site already? Yes, no. If it says no, we redirect them to a page which says, here, we recommend these people to help you get going and start a membership site, because we don't do that anymore. We're just for membership site owners who want to grow. So if you have a free Facebook group or a free membership level, it's a similar thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Great, mate. Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start asking you some more questions, but I have, outside of the topic in question, I have a load of questions generally about entrepreneur business stuff. But realistically, to keep it in that hour or so, we're not going to have time to do them all, which is fine, because that gives me an excuse to get you back on.
Yeah, part two.
Which happens quite a lot now with these podcasts. But, but what I'm going to do is, if it's all right, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and then we'll look to wrap it up, and then I'm going to get you back at some point and talk more general stuff as well, and you can give updates on stuff and what have you. So we briefly touched on business partners, and it's a question I ask most people that come on the Get Real podcast. How do you find working with business partners? What has your experiences been? I in the past have struggled to work with business partners. I'm not an easy person to work with, not an easy person to live with. That's Gabby. I am in a partnership now with OG Crypto, which we're doing, but it's a little bit different. I think for me personally, I've said on other podcasts, we all know what we're doing. We're all similar age. We're a lot older now. OG could stand for Original Gangster. It could stand for Old Gits.
Yeah.
Probably go with the Old Gits. We all know what we're doing. We've all got our own skills and what have you. So that's working great. But in the past, partnerships haven't really worked very well for me. And I've came to the conclusion, except outside of the OG partnership, that I won't really do any partnerships. Let's define what I'm talking about partnership. You and I could do a joint venture on something. That's not a partnership. That's not each people having shares. That's your business working with mine, doing a particular product or a launch or a concept, whatever it may be. We still own our own businesses, but we've got a particular interest in something. I'm not talking about that. because they work great. Everybody knows what it is. There's normally a specific product. Sometimes there's a timeline to it. Great. I'm talking about working with other people. How have you found that?
So with business partners, if there's one piece of advice, be explicitly clear how that partnership works. So for example, I had a business partnership for 12 years, and for 99% of that time it was fantastic until they wanted to leave and do something else. And I choose to focus on the 99% that was great. The 1% at the end, like I said, it can be. You talk about amicable divorces. There's not really that many amicable divorces, is there? There's always things that come in. I don't have a business partner now in the membership side. That's just me. Like you said, I know what I'm doing. I'll bring people in. I have another business which I've got a business partner. Now we have it a one-page agreement exactly. Who does what our roles are, what happens, believe it or not, if one of us dies, we got that down. What happens if one of us wants to leave? Even to the disputes where, if a dispute, how is a dispute, reconciled or resolved? And that just was done right at the beginning. We each got a copy. It's in a drawer, done. And if there's one piece of advice, it's that one piece of paper, which I didn't have previously, where now it's just like, it's more of a comfort factor as well. Exactly what's happening. So if something goes wrong and say, well, you haven't done, well, this is what it says here. This wasn't, this is what we agreed at the beginning. It's not being done now. It just makes it so much easier and easier to have conversations.
Yeah.
About the tough conversations. Yeah.
Definitely I've learned that in the last 20 years or so. Get anything, even if they're your best mate. Yeah. It doesn't matter what. Get it on paper.
Yeah. No, and again, if you got a business, you're thinking about a business partner, think about why. So the gentleman I'm with about business partnership now, it's a specific reason. He's got a skill set which I don't have. I've got a skill set which he doesn't have. The market that we're looking at needs both skill sets. Done. Made perfect sense. However, if you're thinking about a business partner just to bounce ideas off, or you think it'll be great fun, then take a step back, have a think about it, because you're going to be splitting, you're going to be splitting everything. So if your goal is to have, 500,000 net income per year, you're going to have to make $1 million because you're going to need 500,000 each. I'm not saying that's impossible, or you want $1 million, you're going to have to make 2. Everything's doubled.
But it's that specific. Each person knows what they're good at and does what they're good at, and it's that skill set that somebody else doesn't have. That's what makes it work.
Yes, yeah. Now you can buy in a skill set. I could go and employ somebody maybe, but the skill set was above and beyond that. It's skill set of being able to bounce ideas and take risks between us.
Yeah, I know, because we had a catch up prior to recording this, that you've been diversifying a little bit, and
yes,
rather than talking about all the other stuff I've got on my list outside of membership, we'll do that. We'll keep that separate. But for now, to finish this, tell us a bit more about what you've been doing, what you can. I don't know what you can and can't talk about, but I know you've been diversifying, which any business owner should do. You've been on some new directions.
Yeah, so with obviously what happened back in 2020, pandemics and different things, how we can start to diversify. So we looked at some business acquisitions, but we looked at acquisitions where we could add, our skill set too. So is there a business where we can look at it and go, right, is it lacking in marketing? Can we add a subscription element to it, recurring revenue? Can I bring my sales training background to it, which is, from years gone by? And that's what we've been looking at. So a couple of the businesses we've had, believe it or not, one's a commercial radio station up in Scotland. And why on earth would you want that? Well, we've got advertising, which is recurring revenue. We have a new subscription element that we're adding in for listeners to become part of, a tribe, its own clique. Yeah, so its own membership within there as well. We've looked at and have an investment in an alarm company, so alarm securities, both business and domestic. And again, that's subscription revenue. So how can you turn that into a membership? Why would somebody want to be a member of an alarm company? Well, you just need to word it differently. So most people who have an alarm and subscribe for it to be serviced every year, or they're on maintenance, or they're on, straight to police, the alarm monitor. Well, how about now we send them a printed newsletter once a quarter about the company, but not just about the corporate side, about the people who work on it, the office dog or the office cat, or Jane, who's been with us 15 years, who's won this long service award, or John, the engineer, who went above and beyond to help somebody else. So that's what goes into that newsletter now, and it's a VIP customer of the alarm company.
Yeah,
so it's just little things like that connection again, Mark.
Yeah, we got alarms here, CCTV, what have you, and our great guy Steve, he charges us every year nominal fee for maintenance, whatever. But the great thing with that is that if there's any ever a problem, he's there. He's there within, and that's the great thing. And of course, from a newsletter point of view, if you were doing that in your particular thing, you can tell people about new products. If you're a geek like me,
absolutely,
Geezer over the road's got a moving CCTV camera. I'm like, where'd you get that from? And there's always that chance to tell people about what's new, and it's great. So you've got a commercial radio station in Scotland, part of an alarm company, and that's that diversification. And I learnt that diversification is important, but it can also be, you've got to be careful. I'm not saying
No, you're right. Yeah.
So at one point I had pretty much all of my eggs in one basket, and it went wrong drastically.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I'm never doing that again. But the flip side of that is you can have too much.
Yes.
You've not got the capability to focus on something to make it work, and you can spread yourself too thin. From the sounds of it, your input into your diversification is your skill set. People are running the businesses. It's your skill set going in.
Yeah, they have a team in place, so that
that's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not starting from scratch. It's not a startup. It's an existing business, and we could spend a whole few hours on why somebody would sell a business. I'm not an expert in that. We bought a couple now. We sold a couple over the years, but there are many reasons why people want to sell a business. But for us, it's an existing business, team in place. As the owner manager leaves, there needs to be somebody who could step up, and if there isn't, can we recruit quite quickly? But our input is that we are, high level strategic. So
there's a big difference between. It's not like you've gone and started. So, as again, personally, I in the past have tried to do too many things, and I've learned to try and focus. Now, saying that, I'm the guy that does 3 podcasts now. Get Real is one of them, but there's a reason for that. In that, my other, the 3 podcasts I do cover my interests in life. The only other one that I would potentially do, which there's no way I'm doing because I haven't got the time, is music. Outside of music, the crypto stuff and the passion of racing pigeons. So there's an argument that I'm still, but I like it and I'm doing it. So but outside of podcasts, the actual businesses that I'm doing, I've learned to be a lot more focused. I've never only got one thing going on, all my eggs in one basket. I'll never do that again. But at the same time, I've learned to temper the kind of people we are as entrepreneurs. We've got ideas all the time. I'll go out, walk the dogs. I'll come back with 2 or 3 voice notes of ideas. Yeah. But what I try and do now is focus them on those ideas now without even really thinking about it, is what I can do to improve whatever it is I've got going on. Yeah. So, all your eggs in one basket, never do that. And that can be down to not necessarily a new business, but enough products in your range in your existing business or services to be able to be diverse in what you're offering within one business. It doesn't mean about having 2 businesses going or anything.
Correct. Yeah, I think especially when you're starting off, it's that singular. When you're starting from brand new, that singular focus on that one thing to get that going is needed. But then, like you said, what else can you add into that at a later date? I think if you're going to try and start 3 things at once, not one of them is going to work.
No.
unless you're exceptional superhuman. But in most cases, most people, they won't be able to work on three things. They won't have three great things. They'll have three poor things.
Mm. That's great, mate. Well, like I say, there's so many more questions that I want to ask you, but I'll keep them for the next time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
In the meantime, if people want to find out more about you, what you're doing, what you're about, where is the best place for people to find you and get to find out what you're doing?
Yeah, so if they've got a membership site or a subscription program they want to grow, they can search on Facebook for the Successful Membership Site Owner. That's our Facebook group. And they can find me at thetrainingvault.com. That's our main website leading into all things membership.
Great, mate. Well, thanks very much for being on.
Pleasure.
The time's flew for me.
I can't believe it, how long we've been on.
Hopefully the time's flown for the listeners as well. And we will come back at some point and talk more as well. But thanks again, mate. And we'll catch you soon.
Speak to you soon.
You've been listening to the Get Real podcast with Mark Lyford. Being an entrepreneur isn't all glitz and glamour. Entrepreneurs are some of the most hard-working people in the world. And within entrepreneurship, there's life, mental health, business, ups and downs. And that's why we exist. Our passion is to talk about all of it with no BS. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. Find Mark on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube at Mark Lyford. And be sure to hit the website, realeNtrepreneur.com. From there, get his book. You won't be disappointed. See you next time on Get Real.